Hey class, here's lecture 7 for our church history class. I just had a couple of points that I wanted to cover this week as you're doing your reading to help you understand it. But first I wanted to say a quick comment about the syllabus and the reading for the next few weeks. For week 7 and week 8, you'll notice there's a little bit of a difference in what we read in the books and what we talk about in the discussion boards and write on. The books are great, but they are more interested in the broader picture of history in the 18th, 17th, 18th, 19th, and 20th centuries, whereas we want to focus a little bit more closely on the American picture. I definitely still want you to read the books because the European picture and the world picture during this time help to inform what's going on in America, but we're also going to look more specifically at the American context in theater, whereas your books might not specifically interact with that. So there's the discrepancy between what you're reading and what you're talking about. I'll also have other additional resources if you need them for help with your paper or anything else that you might have questions on, but that's why it's that way. So for week 7, I didn't have a whole lot I wanted to talk about, but I wanted to make a few comments just about Protestant growth in the 18th and 19th and 20th centuries, as well as urbanization. So going back all the way to the Mayflower Compact, when the Pilgrims landed on Plymouth Rock, they had the notion that this new country that they founded should be a city on a hill. Something different should be altered from the European context in which they grew up in. That's fine if you're a group of individuals that live there by yourself and there's no one else around. And largely their thought is passed on to Protestants and to other Christian denominations as the centuries pass. And that's why from 1800 to 1880, it's a time of unprecedented growth for the Protestant religion in America. In fact, any other groups during this time, whether they be Catholic, whether they be Jewish or Muslim, they're very much feared, hated, or despised by the Protestant establishment during this time. Now, as I said, to have a concept of a city on a hill and your own Christian nation is totally fine if you're a group of individuals that's 100, 200, 300 strong and you're the only one there, and you're able to maintain that level of consistency. However, we all know America is a magnet for immigrants, and hundreds of thousands of millions of immigrants would come to America over the next 100 years, from 1800 to 1900 and beyond. These immigrants aren't Puritans. And so they bring their own culture, their own language, their own religion, and this causes a lot of fear in what the Protestant establishment has established over the last, from 1760 to 1880, and there's different voices coming about at this time. And I mean, that's just the story of America as a whole, You have one group of people that want it one way, and they're the establishment. A new group of people comes in, whether that's Germans, Irish, Jewish, Lithuanians, Puerto Ricans, whatever. They come in, they're despised, they're kind of, given the lower, crappier jobs. Those people have children, and those children integrate to the culture, and the culture integrates to them, and things change. Then it happens all over again. So what we're seeing from 1800 to 1880 and beyond is this slow denigration of the Protestant establishment to a more multicultural society, which is something we have in full force now. Whether or not you agree with that, it's kind of just a fact that can't be disputed. Um, Also, now that we've talked about Protestant growth, I wanted to briefly touch on urbanization and immigration, more specifically urbanization. So during this time, specifically 1800 to 1910, Industrial Revolution, full swing, sweatshops in the cities. There's not a lot of infrastructure. There's not a lot of good sewage systems. Housing is incredibly crowded and dirty. Disease is rampant, bacteria, that kind of thing. Um, Job situations are difficult because they require a low amount of skill, and if someone else will do your job who's a different ethnicity for cheaper, the boss is going to fire you and hire him. That's why during this time, with all of the upheaval during this time, there's a lot of union talk, there's a lot of pseudo-Marxist talk, um, and there's a lot of anarchism during this time. They're trying to make the establishment more habitable for the everyday man. If you're interested in this topic more, you can read just a fictional book called The Jungle by Upton Sinclair. It kind of gives you a good picture of what the urban situation is like during this time. And obviously, that's the case in the cities, multicultural thought, lots of different people, lots of different ethnicities, and the Protestant establishment is slowly losing its sway there. However, if you go out to like the rural communities of Kentucky or South Dakota or Kansas, it's still very much a Protestant story, even today, to a larger extent. So those are the 2 points that I wanted to cover for our lecture today. The Protestant establishment in the 1800s and 1900s, and urbanization and immigration, and what exactly that meant to the time. That's going to become important when you're looking at your primary source document for this week. Keep that in mind, and if you have any questions, please let me know. I'd be happy to help. Thanks.